Welcome to Enroute, the podcast of the First Responder Behavioral Health Institute. The First Responder Behavioral Health Institute is bringing together some of the most inspiring and dedicated change agents in the global public safety, psychotherapy, and educational communities. Each episode of Enroute seeks to bring together first responder change agents and clinicians dedicated to constructively disrupting the status quo by tackling the tough subjects like first responder suicide, post-traumatic stress, moral injury, sanctuary trauma, leadership development, critical incident response, peer support teams, and what it means to be psychologically safe and healthy while working in an unsafe world. All units, please stand by. The Enroute podcast is about to begin. You can resume normal traffic on this channel after this transmission. Welcome to this Enroute special edition. I'm Joseph Burgundy. The focus of this three-part series is children's advocacy. We're going to examine how first responders can benefit from collaborating with child advocacy centers during the investigation of crimes against children. In this series, we will examine the child advocacy model and why it is so important in helping you help an at-risk child. We will examine how first responders can take advantage of the many resources child advocacy centers have at their disposal to help you help a child and family in crisis. We will offer insights and strategies for how to interact with this model effectively. And lastly, we will examine the question of secondary traumatic stress that first responders themselves can experience during these critical incidents and extremely challenging calls for service. Continuing education units may be available for first responders, therapists, nurses, and physicians, depending on your state's local regulations. Please join me in welcoming Irish Burch, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Dallas Child Advocacy Center, to episode 1 of this three-part series. Irish Burch, President and CEO of the Dallas Child Advocacy Center, welcome to this three-part series and special edition of Enroute.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
You know, your agency does so much good in the community, and we want to go ahead and ask you to explain what child advocacy is, what that model looks like now, and maybe give us a little insight into how it came to be and what it was like before you guys came along.
Well, I love that you asked that question because sometimes people want me to start out and just say what it is, but in order to understand what it is, you really do have to talk about what the world of child advocacy was or how we address these cases prior to this model being created. And it was the brainchild of literally a prosecutor from Huntsville, Alabama. That's where the first advocacy center was created. And he had a yearning, a district attorney had a yearning to say and figure out a better way to investigate these cases. One thing you will learn about child abuse, child sexual abuse, anything that comes to harm a child, it is no way to investigate these cases in silo. It has to be done from a collaborative model. So he came together, pulled together a team of individuals there, all the different disciplines that would touch these cases in order to say, there's a better way for us to do this. How can we collaborate to ensure more of a seamless transition for children? So that is 1985. Fast forward to 1991 when now retired Lieutenant Bill Walsh was the brainchild of the Advocacy Center in Dallas, Texas. He found out about the model. He at the time oversaw the Child Abuse Division for Dallas Police Department, and he was actively involved in working the child abuse cases. And he came up against many barriers of how do you ensure that Child Protective Services, the medical team, the district attorney, everyone is talking to each other and ensuring that these parents and the children are not being traumatized over over and over again. And so before a model came about, what would happen is a child would make an outcry of abuse. That child would be interviewed by the person who showed up at their school. If it was called in by a school teacher, that school teacher would first interview that child. The teacher would tell the principal or the counselor. They would interview the child so they could hear it for themselves before they would make a referral. Then they would call and make a referral, and Child Protective Services would come out and interview the child. Law enforcement patrol would respond and interview the child. The case would be transferred to a detective. Detective would have the child come down to the police station with their non-offending caregivers. They would interview the child. And then when the child went for a medical exam, they would interview the child. And by the time these cases got to court, the defense attorneys would have a field day with these cases, because what you would have is very inconsistent stories. And what they could do was attack the credibility of the child. But what we know is it's not the credibility of the child, it's the person who's asking the questions. And so because you had so many different variations of interviews, you would have variations of what happened. And so in comes your model for a CAC to say, no, we absolutely cannot do this, and we can do better by children and their families when they're reaching out for help in this instance. And so now your model knows that, one, we train our teachers to understand that here, when a child makes an outcry, here is what you say, here is what you don't say. You make that referral, and then we, as the partners in the CAC model, all to come together on the front end for that family to come, be in our environment, and have more of what people like to say is one-stop shop. I'll use that terminology, but really it is a team of disciplines from a variety of different places coming together to say, okay, you come here and we'll do the interview. While we're doing the interview with the child, we'll make sure that someone is talking to the protective caregiver and giving them the resources that they need. After that interview, law enforcement, CPS, whoever the investigating parties are coming together to talk to that family. This prevents mom or dad having to talk to CPS individually, having to talk to law enforcement, going to all these different facets. It really is bringing together everyone on the front end. It prevents a number of things that helps that case now when it goes to court. Now, when that child needs that one resource, that advocacy center is there to ensure that they get everything that they need. And not only for the child, but for everyone in that family.
You know, that's an outstanding innovation in how we do business. As a complex trauma therapist myself, you know, I recognize every time this child is put before another interviewer and questioned again and again and again, that's going to risk the potential for re-traumatization.
Yes.
So you guys, by one-stop shop, you're meaning the kid gets interviewed one time by a forensic interviewer who's trained in what they're doing.
Yes.
And then they can go ahead and share that across the multidisciplinary team. Now, what does a multidisciplinary team look like, and what's its makeup?
So your multidisciplinary team is going to be all of your team members. So it's going to be the forensic interviewer, it's going to be your partner agencies in regards to law enforcement, child protective services, the medical community, as well as the prosecution team. And then you're also going to have the things that we provide in regards to the therapist and as well as the family advocate. We want to make sure that it's not enough just for the child to come and talk about the story. Yes, locking the perpetrator up is critical, but also providing all of the support services that that family needs. And so when you have a full multidisciplinary team approaching, you're tackling it in three different ways. You're tackling the investigation, you're tackling the healing, and you're tackling the prosecution. So that is what our MDT comes together to do, to provide that coordinated approach in investigating, prosecution, and healing these families in the way that they need.
You know, I've used the services when I started out. I've used them as a first responder, getting cases to your office, and also as a school counselor when I started out as a therapist, and have been to your campuses. This isn't a police station. This is a very supportive and therapeutic environment. It's very comfortable in there. You know, it creates the kind of a relaxed space for everyone to go ahead and kind of breathe into the problem and get the support that they need. And as in the role of a mandated support reporter, school counselors and others that are going ahead and working with this model, the benefits of this system go ahead and add so much value to them, and many agencies don't really realize what you guys do. And how you support the community. So tell us a little bit more about your mission, the people and the programs down there. We know you do the forensic interviews, but what else does this great agency do?
Yeah, so we do a variety of things. So really, if you want to talk about the journey of the client, it actually first starts with our MDT coordination team. So before the family ever walks through the door, we have an amazing group of individuals, and their job is to read our child abuse referrals. So now in the state of Texas, and for the CAC model, when someone calls the child abuse hotline, that referral goes to 3 different places. It goes to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, but it also goes to law enforcement, and it comes to our CACs. So we have a team of individuals that read every single referral that comes in a matter of ensuring that no cases are falling through the cracks. So although when our CAC model is set up to actually serve children who have cases that rise to the level of a criminal offense. So for us, we're going to see specifically the cases of sexual abuse, sex exploitation, witnesses to homicide, and those are going to usually be cases of siblings that witness the homicide of their sibling at the hands of a caregiver. So we're going to see only cases that rise to the level of a criminal offense. However, over 30 is close to, I believe, a little bit over 35,000 cases of child abuse and neglect came in through the hotline on last year. We read every single one of those. And then you probably say, well, if you know you only do severe physical abuse and sexual abuse, why would you read all of those cases? Because I'll tell you, as just a practical example of someone who's actually read those referrals, because when that program started, I was reading all of the referrals that came in. You'll have a referral that come in listed as neglectful supervision or something that doesn't look like it rises to the level of a criminal offense. But if you're reading the narrative, it'll talk about all the different things of how this family is a neglectful situation. And then there will be one line that indicates, and she stated that someone is touching her on her privates in her home. So we read every referral because we want to ensure no child falls through the cracks. And so that's the first start of point of entry when you come into our advocacy center. So then the child comes in for that forensic interview, or law enforcement, CPS, they've deemed that that child needs to be interviewed. They come in for that forensic interview. While we are interviewing that child, then our family advocate team, this is the team that is usually going to be the face of the agency for the family. The detective is long gone when their case is over. The interviewer has moved on to another interview, but throughout the trajectory of their lifespan of their case, this family advocate is going to stay with that family. And so they're there to provide a number of resources. Unfortunately, a lot of times we remove the main breadwinner. So how are they going to pay their bills? We're there to help you pay your bills and connect you to resources in order to ensure that that continues. They're there to accompany our families for court. They're there to ensure that sometimes in more severe situations, maybe the abuse has taken place in their home. It's taken place in their bedroom. And so once we've removed that perpetrator from the home and you've started on the healing journey, just being in that same environment can be a trigger for that child. So this team goes in and helps bring together the community to make over that room. So let's make sure that we remove all of those things that could be a barrier to your healing. And then they're going to ensure that that family also then goes into our healing services. We have an amazing group of clinicians that provide all trauma-informed based therapy to ensure that these families are getting exactly what they need. And again, not just for the victim, because what we know is if you have a caregiver that doesn't have the support and you have a child that doesn't have the support of a caregiver, 9 times out of 10, that child is probably going to recant. So we want to ensure that we are taking care of all of that. So you have this full array of services. On top of that, what you have is the partners working together. We're doing a case review. We're bringing together all of those investigating parties to ensure, and this is to get a great snapshot of what the MDT model is. It is to understand what case review is. So everybody has gone through working the cases, but every week we come together and say, okay, now it's time to make sure we've covered all our bases. What's the full holistic process that this child needs? And so we go from the case step by step. The CPS investigator talks and tells about what they've discovered in the case. Law enforcement discusses what they've discovered in the case and actions they're going to be taken. They're asking us questions in regards to information we may have gotten from family members because they felt more comfortable telling us than telling law enforcement or CPS. So it's a full collaborative model to say, okay, this child has made an outcry. We have taken these steps to ensure that the perpetrator no longer has access to her. We have ensured that she now has a safe environment from a CPS standpoint. And so now we've made sure that we have gone through to ensure that she is in with she and the family, or he and the family are all connected with the services that they need in order to ensure that as they're waiting for trial, as their process is going through the judicial system, how do we ensure that we're protecting them and supporting them collaboratively?
That's one of the things I'm not sure people really understand. There's a sense of, yes, they're going to get us through this critical incident, but your support is ongoing. From the start of this outcry in your interview, how long does a case take to go through the system, and how long might one of your staff members be assisting this family?
So once you come through our services, you are a client for life. Everything that we do is absolutely free, because we also know about disclosure is a process. So when children start to go through healing and they get to a point where they feel like, okay, the therapist and you work together to equip yourself with coping skills, and you feel like your time has come to a graduation, is what we call it. We'll have a graduation for you at therapy. But then what we also know, if that child is 9 or 10 at the time, when they become a teenager and get their first boyfriend, when they get married, sometimes there are things that happen in life that are triggers. So they're always welcome to come back. As far as how long it takes a case to go through the system, it varies based on the client. But if I'm thinking about the judicial system, initially it used to be anywhere from 12 to 18 months. I think things have slowed down as according to the things that we faced with COVID. So now our district attorney is really ramping back up, and we've seen that due to the amount of times our forensic interviewers and our clinicians are having to go to court to testify on cases. But for a client, it just depends on when they're in therapy. It depends on how quickly they move through the process and understanding and learn their coping skills and ensure that the family has the support. But once a client for us, always a client for us.
That's amazing. That's amazing. To go ahead and have that sense of longevity and being there. As a clinician, I also know that some of the cases I work with, that individual was doing just fine. But then the first dating scenario happens, or they were doing absolutely fine, and then we find out that something triggered them, and it was some trigger in the environment. They've completed therapy, they've graduated, and then they're in my office because something triggered them, and it could be something like the aftershave or something that individual used is, the perpetrator had on was the same as a colleague in the office.
I can give you a practical example of that right now, Joseph. Just probably about 2 weeks ago, she was a partner of mine when we served on the executive team together for DCAC, but she was also the clinical director of in our agency, and she saw clients. So a while ago, several years back, we had a young man that come through our agency, and he and his family had been the victim of a severe homicide, meaning the individual had killed his family members and injured him. So he is in his 20s, and they recently went through a situation where I want to say it was a death penalty case, and I believe the individual was executed, and that was a trigger for him. And so he remembered her, although she's president at another organization now, reached out to her, and she instantly texted me and said, "Hey, we have this situation. He is really needing some help. Here's what," and he remembered the Advocacy Center. He remembered that was the place to go. Now, what we ultimately decided for him is he didn't want to be in more of a child environment. So we then put him in contact with someone who actually worked at our Advocacy Center that left and started their own practice that we knew would still provide the same services for us that they did for us. So it is truly connection for life. And I'm glad that even if you can't come through our doors and we're not the people to provide you the service, we are the people to ensure that you get exactly what you need.
Nice. Well, in the referral base you have is so highly specialized, and having a list of people who've worked with you that are complex trauma specialists who have gone off into private practice, as well as all the other coordinating agencies. Something else you said, changing up the environment in that bedroom, in that house. We've learned now, as I consult on shootings and other things, we have to change the environment. People who were at Columbine after that shooting and graduated from that, who go back to their own high school, can't find their way around because they've redesigned the entire environment in an effort to go ahead and pull out the trauma triggers. And I don't think people understand that. I try to educate them towards that, but you guys are already doing that and making sure that environment has been modified, as well as the therapy provided, a client for life, and the support that people need to recover. Tell me a little bit about the support and training that you provide for clinicians, law enforcement, and other members of the community.
So it really is the second part of our mission in order to be a national leader in this space. It's not enough for me. It's not enough for my peers to just focus on Dallas County. Dallas County definitely needs our organization, but the world needs our organization also. And we exist because we believe every child should be safe in their home, and the reality is that they're not. And so because of that, we host the largest child abuse conference in the world of its kind. And our goal is to ensure that every single child protection professional has exactly what they need in order to ensure that they are doing what they need to protect the children, what they need to protect themselves, because I know you will know when I say this is a difficult job, but also what they need in order to protect each other, because that's what our model is about. Our model is about not only taking care of the children, but taking care of the children in a way that's collaborative. So I got to take care of my peer also, but then how do I also make sure that I take care of myself along in this journey? So our conference is every August. I just went blank for a second. Every August. The conference is actually older than the agency. That's what a lot of people don't realize. We are 33 this year. The conference will be 36 years old this year, because the same individual that started the Advocacy Center actually started the conference first. And so every single August, child abuse, law enforcement, medical practitioners, prosecutors, from around the world come and converge on to Dallas, Texas in the heat of August. It's not a good, that's the only bad thing. And we hear it every year. Like, who has a conference in August when it's 139 degrees?
Oh my goodness. But it's well attended, I hear. How many people show up at this?
Last year we had over 5,600 attendees, over 60 countries represented. Like, it is truly an international collaboration. It's one, as I said, I like to say it's one large MDT coming together under one roof.
Nice. Is this an entire week, and do you host it on your campus, or?
No, we could not host it on our campus. We hosted in downtown Dallas at a local hotel. It starts on a Sunday and it goes through a Thursday. So it's always going to be historically the second week of August. That's how you will know when the conference is coming. We've always kept it at that time.
Okay. And how many presenters and speakers do you have at this event?
Last year we had over 175.
Wow.
It is It is a sight to behold. You have to experience the conference in order to truly see the beauty of it.
There you go. Well, it's worth risking the heat. It sounds like a tremendous opportunity to collaborate, to learn together, and benefit from enhancing your own model and your own agency by getting the extra training. Can you briefly walk me through the life cycle of what a case looks like from referral and outcry through your system?
So from referral to outcry. So referral starts with a case going through our MDT coordination team. They will read the referral. They will contact law enforcement, child protective services, and help to collaborate and coordinate that those two disciplines working together to get that child scheduled for a forensic interview. Child will then come in for a forensic interview. And when we have our forensic interviews, our investigating parties are there to observe. Law enforcement is always there if they're going to be always involved in the case. CPS, depending if they're involved in the case, will be there to observe also. So while that interviewer is interviewing that child, they are watching that interview at that same exact time. Once that interview has taken place, then that interview is going to, that child, we're going to assess that child to ensure that they have everything they need. If that child makes any remarks or any concerns about suicidal tendencies, we're going to make sure that we do a full assessment and intervene before that child leaves the agency. And that's where our family advocacy team will come in. Once that interview is over, law enforcement and child protective services, they're going to also speak with that family. So they're going to make some determinations as what needs to happen next with that investigative case, as well as CPS determining whether or not that child is safe in their home and whether or not they can return there or whether or not they need to take additional measures. Once they have done that, it is still going to be our responsibility to ensure that that child and that family, they receive the therapy services. So we're going to make sure that before they leave that we have talked to them about our services, offer them a few options in regards to how to get plugged into that, and then ensure that we follow up with them on a continual basis just to ensure that they're okay. And as they're waiting to possibly get into therapy, we're going to implore some activities in order to ensure engagement activities to make sure that we're still keeping a pulse on how they're doing. In the meantime, we're also going to do something that I'm pretty sure one of our team members will talk about in regards to our partner relations team in medical referrals. So based on what that child states in that interview, they may need to be referred over to our medical team for an evaluation. And so we have a person on staff that also manages that process for helping law enforcement and the families to get connected into our local partner, our MDT partner in our medical space, and ensure that that child gets the answers that they may need and their questions that they might have about their body answered in a way that is understanding at their level, but also brings them comfort because a wide variety of things can go through a child's mind after these things have happened to them. And so we want to ensure that they have that also. And then we're going to go then into the case review process. So after that child has had all of those different steps, that's going to be when we're coming together from case review. And our prosecutor is at that actual case review staffing. And so we're looking at that case from a holistic view. Again, those 3 pointers of have we covered everything in regards to the investigation? Have we taken care of their healing services? And now, is there anything missing that we would need in order to move this case forward from a judicial or prosecution standpoint? I think that's the shortest I've ever done that.
Absolutely. So from referral all the way through therapy and graduation, working with the courts and long-term case management, you guys truly are a one-stop shop and, offering a comprehensive way to handle this in a therapeutically effective manner. Now, since we're the First Responder Behavioral Health Institute and we're working with our first responders to go ahead and do their jobs better, what messages do you have for our first responders in how they can engage this model, why they should engage this model, and maybe perhaps why they shouldn't go it alone?
My goodness. That is such a loaded question. And the reason why I say that is because anybody knows me and they know my history with this world. They know there is nothing better. I will tell you there is nothing better than the MDT model. It is virtually impossible to do this work in a way that truly will bring about healing for a family without this model. So here's what we know. Working these types of cases in silo can be extremely stressful. It can be extremely taxing. Our first responders see absolutely so much. I was a CPS investigator before I ever came to the Advocacy Center. When I first started there, I was a forensic interviewer. So I am literally thinking about all of the things that I've seen and all of the things I know. In September of this year, it'll be 30 years that I've been in this space. And I will tell you, out of that 30 years, I've seen the model when the model is good and it works, and I've seen the model when it doesn't work. And so what I am telling you is, when you have law enforcement, and I'm just going to go down the line. When I think of law enforcement, my law enforcement partners, and anybody knows me knows that I love law enforcement. I should have did it, but I'm too old now, so that's neither here nor there. But for law enforcement, they think about the responsibility. Like, they are called to do so many different things. They're called to protect and serve. And as a part of this model, it is also their responsibility to protect and serve these children. But they have so many other things to do. For you, when you're thinking about, I need to now figure out how to interview a 3-year-old, I need to figure out how to interview a 9-year-old, someone in such a delicate space. And I'm not saying it can't be done, but what I'm saying, asking them to do something of that magnitude and to switch back and forth from child victim to perpetrator is just not as beneficial, and it's not going to help the case in a way that could move it further in a more successful route. So allowing those people that are specialized in talking to the children to take on that part, that way I can go to court and testify about that. I can then actually make sure that I'm ensuring that the family is getting the services, because I know that law enforcement and CPS, they want the family to get healing. They want to make sure that this child grows up and that they are the most healthiest human well-being that they absolutely can be. And they know that just by doing the investigation is not always enough. However, when you're not linked to these types of systems, then you are responsible as a first responder, then trying to figure out, well, I wonder if that child got what they needed. I wonder how this individual is doing today. I wonder if they made it out of what felt like such a detriment to them at that young age. And so this model strips all of that away. It is you saying, I'm coming together to work with a team of individuals, and I'm going to do my part in this, and my part brings a specialized lens. It's a specialized law enforcement perspective is different from CPS perspective, different from an interviewer's perspective, different from the prosecution and the medical. And when you bring all of those different perspectives together, my God, you will have actually everything that you need in order to ensure that you are giving that family the tools, the resources, and you're going to ensure that they get justice. They need justice in these situations. And justice, I will say to you, Joseph, justice doesn't always look like prosecution in regards to not death sentence, but a jail sentence, jail time. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the time. We've had to redefine that for what justice means for this team. But what you have is really a solid case of individuals that's put forth everything. And here's the other thing. I know people don't want to think about how hard these cases are. I know people want to think about, oh, I just come in and do my job. That's not the case when you do this job. You have to have the support of others who knows what it's like to be in this space. You have that support and that collaboration to say, you know what, I can go to that individual or my peer. I can go to law enforcement. Even right now, one of my best friends is a detective. I can go to him right now and say, oof, that case is that got me. And we can process that in a way that I can't talk to my husband, can't talk to my mom, I can't talk to my siblings. No one understands this world. And so when you're working these cases in such a collaborative model, again, not only does it provide success for the child and for the family, it provides success for you. But I believe it contributes to your longevity. 30 years. It'll be 30 years for me. And a part of that 30 years is I wouldn't have been here. I would have checked out a long time ago had I not had such an amazing group of individuals and friends that I've developed over the years that understand that sometimes we need to cry and sometimes we need to laugh and joke and we have a weird sense of humor, but I know I'm not alone. You
Yeah,
cannot do this alone. If you try to do it alone, you won't last.
absolutely. Well, and you said so much here, and I want to reiterate, forensic interviewing of a child is a subspecialty. It takes an enormous amount of skill to do this.
Yes.
As a criminal investigator, that's one thing. Understanding child psychology enough to set the appropriate container and environment for that child to express what just happened. That's therapeutic, clinically effective, and also gathers the evidence needed, does take a clinical specialist. The other thing that I've experienced every time I've worked with your staff is collaboration. And a definite sense of partnership and belonging every time I've reached out to your group. And I tell clinicians often, I've had to teach in public schools how to handle the outcry. And as I let them know, look, the child came to you because you're trusted. You're their favorite teacher or you're a counselor they believed in, and there's a deep sense of trust there. And if they want to talk to you, let them talk. Don't ask questions. Don't start investigating because you don't want to go, well, I can't talk to you anymore because I have to do the following three things. That's going to destroy trust, right? To go ahead and let that child get it out, be grateful, go home tonight and be honored that they believed in you when they were feeling at their most vulnerable. And above all, the best handoff in the world. This is Officer Nicole, and she is a friend of mine, and I trust her. This is, social worker such and such, and I really, appreciate her, and I want you to tell Janeth everything you told me. So kind of getting that very warm handoff and collaborating so that you set up the best possible success with the forensic interview team. And as I talk about your team, how they stay in the game and how they stay healthy, you guys really are there for each other, and it shows in the collaboration that even as we've put this 3-part series together, you have a gifted group of people. How many forensic interviewers do you have on your staff?
We have 7.
Okay. And total staff, how many people do you have down there?
Total staff, we have 115 right now. When fully staffed, we are at 123, but right now we're at 115 full time.
Okay. You are the leader of some of the most inspiring individuals I've ever had the privilege of meeting. They wade through complex trauma with a smile and an open heart. They're there for each other, and they're there for the child. How do you find groups of people like this, and what's your secret as a leader to keeping them motivated?
Well, I will say it is the best word, and the one word that comes to mind is intention. So for me, it is, I have leadership values that I live by, and that is being intentional about what I do and also being transparent. And so we want to make sure that when we're bringing individuals into our team, that one, they are individuals that are really fit for our team. So we explain our model. We have an extensive onboarding process that we've just expanded recently, because that's what is most key is when you bring up individual into your organization, really making sure that they understand, just for lack of a better word, of saying what they're getting themselves into in this space. And so for me, it has been a joy to work my way up in this organization, to come from the front lines, to be the person that was actually interviewing the children, and then to increase my responsibilities and eventually get to the executive team and really be able to advocate for what I felt like the staff and the partners need. And now to be sitting in this seat, I have more of a practical understanding of really what it's like to be on the day-to-day. And I know that we have to go over and above and beyond to provide the resources that are probably not afforded in a lot of other organizations in regards to ensuring that we have certain services that offer debriefing services by clinicians outside of our organization that we can bring in to help our team members work through difficult cases instead of them having to go out and seek that on their own. It's making sure ensure that our team members they feel seen and they feel valued and they feel heard. So it is asking them what helps, what do you need, what resources would make your job easier, how can we ensure that you show up every day feeling like you are in a place where you belong and that you are treated with dignity and compassion. And so those are things that we strive to do every day. Do we always get it right? No. But what we will say is if we don't get it right, well, I am the first to say, oh, okay, so that didn't work out so well. Let's pivot and let's figure out this new way to implement something. So it's truly an honor to get to figure out every day to be intentional about how I show up into the place to bring an energy that also includes ensuring that those feel valued and seen.
Nice. It shows. So what I also heard you say is you use your own debriefing model with your own people after challenging cases.
We have a contract with an organization, and it is a amazing organization that they are all retired first responders that have gotten their clinician licensings and things of that nature. So we contract with them. So it's in our budget every single year for all of our staff members to be afforded whatever they need. And so they can either come to their supervisor and tell their supervisor that they need it. The supervisor can actually identify and bring in the debrief. So a lot of times what happened is we'll have a difficult case. So we've had some recent homicide cases at the end of 2023, child homicide cases that were really taking a toll on our team, and they were back to back to back. So we brought together all of those, including partners that would have had contact with those cases or that felt impacted by those cases, and then brought in our debriefer. And it's done in a way also that is confidential. If someone wants to call them directly, including partners, and schedule, they can absolutely do that. But it is really meant to provide them with that level of therapeutic, evidence-based response to having to deal with the trauma that we sometimes see.
There you go. And I think you've helped my first responders a great deal. One of the things that we do as well as debriefings for police and fire departments, but we recommend that they are done by clinicians who also have the first responder background. So again, You've already drawn on a lifetime of experience in the field as well as the clinical training and the evidence-based backing to go ahead and make sure these are run right. They are very helpful when they're done right. There is a kind of a push to not do them. Right now, I don't want to get my feelings out, or it can be traumatizing. And if they're done right, they definitely help to build the bonds of the agency and the group, get that group cohesion where it needs to be, get them to identify the things that didn't go as well as you'd hoped they'd gone. You know, we're building this ship as we're flying it, and sometimes there's going to be some challenges that we face with that. So I'm glad to hear you're using a debriefing model as well. So we have a 3-part series, and we get the privilege in our next episode to visit with Janeth Peterson and Mark Bradford. What are some of the things that they're going to share with us? And I understand she's a forensic interviewer and he's a former police officer. Tell me a little bit more about those two.
Yeah, so Janeth, absolutely amazing. She is an assistant director over our forensic interview services. So she is going to discuss that model and discuss all of the amazing things that team does in order to create that environment for the children and really explore, give more depth in the understanding as to what their process looks like. People think it's just talking to children, but it really is a specialized process that they go through. She is magnificent. And then you'll also hear from Mark Bradford. He is our chief external relations officer. And so one of the things that we have valued at our advocacy center is ensuring that our partners have a voice. And so that is his primary responsibility of really looking and ensuring that all of the different partners, including our agency, that we're all coming together to move forward in one shared vision. And that shared vision is making sure that we're taking care of that family. And so you're going to hear more from him about how he does that. He is actually a retired child abuse detective. He was in law enforcement for, believe right at 25 years. Funny story. I was his forensic interviewer. So we have
Oh,
been connected for a number of years. That is actually
yeah.
how I met Mark. I was a forensic interviewer and he was a child abuse detective. So we
Oh,
have a very long history.
nice. And then in episode 3, we get the privilege of meeting with Dr. Elena Doskey de Lobón. Tell me a little bit more about her and what value she adds to the agency.
My gosh, just a breath of fresh air. When she does what she does for our agency is twofold. I have to explain it like that. So she is going to discuss our CSERT model and what we do to ensure, again, that we're educating and in how can I say it? We're really ensuring that our staff members have a better understanding of how to take better care of themselves in this work. So that is what she's going to come and talk to you about. And not only is she able to talk about that model that she does for us, but she will be able to talk about how she's been able to expand that model into for our partners, adapted for our partners also. But what she also provides for us, she is a director on our staff. And so when she's teaching and presenting to our staff members, she has this dual role where she can talk from a place of leadership, but she can also talk from a place of practicality and staff members, and where they'll hear from her how to better take care of yourselves better than they'll hear from me. Because for me, it sometimes feel like I'm just telling you to do this thing because I'm the leader of the organization and I think this is what's best. She's telling you how to do this thing in a way that's very practical and that you can relate to and connect to better. It is a sight to behold to see her talk, and I cannot wait for your audience to be able to hear from all 3 of those individuals. Absolutely remarkable.
I couldn't agree more. And we've done the pre-interviews with them, and I already recognize that her work is paradigm shifting, and I think it is something that's needed in every first responder agency too. So I asked the question when I set up the initial meeting with your staff, how do you guys stay in the game? And that's when they, introduced me to her and let me know the level of work that she provides for you guys. As we start to wrap up our interview today, what else should we be aware of? What message do you want to go ahead and leave our first responders? And, there you have it.
What I would say is for your first responders in regards to the work that they are doing is you have to really take care of yourselves. I know that I can talk to you all day about what it's like to work in this space and how you're doing a great job in protecting children or protecting the community and doing all those things. But none of those things are going to be effective, or none of those things will ever happen or will continue to happen if you're not taking care of yourself. So that would be what I would leave you with. Do what you need to do in order to ensure that you are creating an environment where you also can thrive. It's like they say with flying, you have to put on your oxygen mask before you can help anyone else. And I think as first responders, we sometimes go, 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 go. We've lived in a world over the last several years where the perception of your professions and our professions have changed dramatically. And we have to lean on each other. We have to stay connected to each other and know that what we're doing, it matters. And taking care of yourself is your top priority. So for all of the first responders out there, I know it sometimes feels like a thankless job. I know it sometimes feels like you can do no right, because every time you do something, somebody's going to find something to nitpick about or to attack you on. But just know that you have a friend in me, you have a friend in your peers, and we're here to support you. The work you do is so valuable. No one can do it like you can. And so you got to make sure you take care of yourself and know that there are people out here that support you every single day. You are truly unsung heroes, and it's an honor to work with each of you.
A very, very important message to deliver. Irish Burch, President and CEO of the Dallas Children's Advocacy Center. thank you so much for being gracious and giving us your time today, and for helping us to put this 3-part series together. Thank you for being on this episode of Enroute.
Well, thank you, Joseph. This has truly been an honor. Truly an honor.
I'm Joseph Burgandy. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Enroute. Enroute is a production of the First Responder Behavioral Health Institute. To learn more about us, head on over to frbhi.org.